Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Ridwanullah family. Welcome back to another episode of Ridwanullah TV. I'm your host and maximizer, Hussein Mohamud, working to help you completely maximize your dream life, your complete dream life in this dunya and in the akhirah by the grace, will, and for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Verily all praise and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, owner, and sustainer, the one who's worthy of worship and praise without any intermediaries or intercessors. And may the peace and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon the most esteemed leader and most honorable teacher, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his family, his companions, and those who follow him until the day of judgment. Allahumma ameen. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Another wonderful episode of the Ridwanullah TV show. Really excited about this topic. It really hits home for most of us. And inshallah, before I let you guys know about today's sponsor by default, and any announcements and updates, I would like to tell you the title of today's topic, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and it is overcoming marriage problems, healing and moving forward, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We all need some level of overcoming marriage problems, healing and moving forward, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So we should focus on overcoming marriage problems, healing and moving forward, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. This is a topic that I kind of danced around for a little while now, so it's time to look at it dead in the face and address it as properly as we possibly can. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. For the viewers that are returning, they know this is going to be an hour session as usual. The show normally, give or take, is going to be about an hour. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into it and understand what we're trying to achieve in overcoming these marriage problems, so we could heal and move forward. Why we want to achieve that? Why is it important? Why is it important for me? Why is it important for you? Why is it important for our loved ones, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala? And just a couple of steps that we can take to be able to do that, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And I know this is something that a lot of people are really interested in. A lot of people talk about, a lot of people complain about, a lot of people rave about, or whatever you want to call it, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So it's going to be very important for me. It's something amazing that I've learned that I'll be sharing with you throughout the show, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. It's basically the three levels of marriage that each and every single one of us has to assess to see if we are meeting it. So if you are not married yet, this is going to be a very important show for you, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And if you are married, even more so. And if you are divorced or anything along those lines, then this is going to be very valuable for you as well, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So we don't keep repeating the same mistakes on any of these levels, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So today's sponsor, Ridwanullah organization, is the sponsor, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Just to tell you a little bit about Ridwanullah organization, it is an Islamic personal professional development organization that is designed to help our ummah and world completely maximize, master and maximize their complete dream life in this dunya and in the akhirah by the grace, will, and for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It primarily goes through 5 particular steps of fulfilling achievement, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and delivers in ways through media, through teaching and training, through coaching and consulting, community service, quarterly mastermind retreats. These are some things that is in the works of developing and growing, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Doing an annual conference sometime down the line, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and just having some sort of store that you could purchase some products and services from, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So that's in a nutshell what Ridwanullah organization really is and what it's really about. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Your love and support for it is going to be immensely important. A lot of different projects and ideas that are coming up in the background. So staying tuned is going to be very, very important. We are based online, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, but we're going to be doing a lot of offline work to start, to start the initial works of the organization, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And then inshallah, as we slowly but surely progress, we will have some online offers for you guys, both for free and paid, offline and online, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So I hope that makes sense and is giving you a little bit of better idea what the Ridwanullah organization is really about. Wonderful organization, has strong core values that we build around, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Looking for sponsors for this Ridwanullah TV show as well. If you would like to sponsor the Ridwanullah TV show, please send your budget and details to ridwanullahorganization@gmail.com. ridwanullahorganization@gmail.com. Send your budget and details to ridwanullahorganization@gmail.com. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And that summarizes and concludes our default sponsor for this episode, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. I mean, I know, it's going to take some time for people to kind of understand what the work is about, what we're doing, and, get the hang of it. And probably, if you're watching and you are a Ridwanullah family member and you are benefiting from this, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, I would love your love and support to share with as many people as you possibly can. Obviously, we're doing this for free. And not to say that, I don't like people that say, we're doing it for free, whatever, right? It really doesn't matter. What really matters is our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how close we are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, we're working hard to do that for ourselves and you as well, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So I would love your love and support by spreading the message so we can grow the Ridwanullah TV show as well as the organization, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. With that being said, announcements and updates. I know I told you guys that I was working on the Ridwanullah University, which was an online program. As of right now, that's going to be on the shelf for an unknown period of time. As we go along, the focus is going to shift. It's just a natural thing about life and business and everything else that comes along with that. And for me right now, to be quite honest with you, what I want to do is I have a 3-part strategy that I'm working on. I want to have an online presence just to make sure that we're delivering valuable content. But I want to start my actual work that I'm already doing and have some solid foundation and framework offline, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, starting with my own community here in Salt Lake City, Utah. And then, start offering some things online, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And then, just go take it step by step and keep building it up to the level where we actually have a full program, not only offline, but also online, to help individuals completely master and maximize their complete dream life in this dunya and in the akhirah by the grace, will, and for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So with that being said, I'm going to be focused on doing seminars, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, locally in Salt Lake City, Utah. And then, start doing some webinars, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. There's going to be 2 types. The first one is a sample, where you're going to get the complete sample in a 90-minute seminar and webinar in the future, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Usually in the beginning of the month. And then towards the end of the month, we're going to do the paid seminar and webinar, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, where we're going to dive deeper into the complete elements and the breakdowns of completely mastering and maximizing your complete dream life in this dunya and in the akhirah by the grace, will, and for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's the announcement and updates that I want to share with you, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And I think that's pretty much it in terms of announcements and updates. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I can think about. So we're doing the best that we possibly can, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, to deliver a show for you weekly. So I would love your love and support by watching the previous episode and then watching the next episode, but most importantly, watching this episode completely. Show your love and support, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Subscribe, like, leave your comments, and share it with your family and friends, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. It'll be greatly, greatly appreciated. I really, really would love your love and support to help me grow this Ridwanullah TV show and organization, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And it's an ongoing journey. It's a beautiful journey. It is my life's calling, passion, purpose, and dreams as well, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So I'm slowly but surely working my way into it, understanding the ins and outs of this complete business and organization. So jazakumullahu khair, really, really appreciate it. So that's all the the announcement and updates that I can think about. So we're gonna take a step forward and dive deeper into today's subject, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, or today's topic and message. It's quite a journey. Marriage in itself, it's a unique beast. To put it lightly, it's one of those things where you fight so hard to get married, and then you kind of lose that hunger and drive, and then start coasting, and that's when things starts breaking down. And maybe it got to a point where your marriage did break down, and your marriage got broken apart, intentionally or unintentionally, directly or indirectly, through your hands or somebody else's. Through the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And maybe you're just trying to, heal. Maybe you're in a situation right now where your marriage situation doesn't look good at all. And it's a very, very painful thing to go through. Very, very painful thing to go through, that in one way or the other, in one intensity or the other, that we all go through. But it's important for us to understand, the complete concept, perception, and approach of marriage in itself, and the beauty of it, and how ugly it could get, to be quite honest with you, for certain individuals in certain levels and stages, and how much money, time, energy, and effort it really takes to maintain a happy marriage and a happy life. Obviously, I hope that something that I'm saying strikes a chord in you, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. It's something that hits home on multiple levels for me, from my grandparents, parents level, to my level, to my friends, my other family members and friends level, and just looking at the entire ummah's condition. It's a really, really painful reality, to be quite honest with you. But within that same token, there's some beauty within that struggle, because it is life at the end of the day, right? We can't really sidestep it. We really have to completely address it. We can't keep ignoring these painful problems and challenges anymore. And it's a learning and growing opportunity, and it's one of those things where you really can't always get right. But you can always make it right by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What I mean by that is, in life, you're going to make mistakes. That's a given. And you can't expect to have a perfect marriage. It doesn't exist. You can get as close to perfect as you possibly can, because this is life. But what I know for sure from roughly about 6 to 7 years of marriage experience, from the bitter small portion of it to the blissful abundant part of it, for me personally, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, is that whatever mistake that you've made in your marriage, you can always correct. It's never too late. You're not in charge or in control of mistakes, but you are in charge and control of making those mistakes right, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And I can't help but start getting a little bit emotional, because I realize the truth of that for not only myself, But for everyone that I know and love, that I don't know and I wouldn't say don't love, but don't like, maybe I get myself a little bit into trouble here. But I hope that you can understand, I'm trying to give you a little bit of better perception and approach and a little bit of better concept of what marriage really is. And, maybe it's a good place to start there and just kind of see what it just acknowledge and think about and realize the concept and the perception and approach that you have to marriage. There's multiple things that you could have. Maybe you have the best example of marriage around you, right? Whether that's your grandparents, whether that's your great-grandparents, if you're fortunate enough to live in that stage. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I remember knowing my grandparents, for a short period of time, obviously, as a kid. I don't know if anybody has parents, great-grandparents as married individuals, but if they do, that's a blessing in its own. But looking at the examples of, great-grandparents, you really don't really understand that very well. Maybe you could take lessons from, but definitely your grandparents, right? You look at their example. Maybe it is the best example that you have, right? Maybe you're looking at your own parents, mother and father, and they're showing you what an exemplary marriage looks like and how it's supposed to be dealt with. Or when you get married, right? Maybe you're leading an exemplary life as a married individual, as a husband or wife, or a husband and wife to be, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Or maybe you have other family and friends who have amazing marriages that you can learn from and grow from, and and it's just so amazing to look at that bright side. And I feel like the overwhelming majority of individuals that are around us are giving us a negative example of what marriage is supposed to be. From the grandparents, or potentially our own parents, or our own marriages, or other family and friends that we know of, and acquaintances. And you're thinking, I'll never get married. If I'm looking at their marriage and how horrible it is, I'll never get married. And I know individuals that I personally have dealt with that have been thinking like that. And I was just trying to give them a little bit of better perception that, their example of what marriage really is, their concept, perception, and approach to marriage is a negative one. So they have a negative reaction, and negative goals, planning and preparing to be alone, and so many different things that you can imagine. Or maybe there's a little bit in between. Maybe you had the bittersweet marriages, right? Where sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's really rough and sometimes it's really somewhere in between and just kind of neutral. But any of these three examples you really have to be cautious about. You really have to understand, right? If your parents have divorced, or your grandparents have divorced, or if you are divorced, or if someone that you know has divorced, don't let that be a bitter taste in your life forever, right? That's why the healing part is so important in marriage, and most importantly in life, and moving forward, right? And those are the things that we're going to be talking about. But looking at the painful problems and challenges in marriages is going to be very, very important. I've always been an observational type of person. I was very, very careful in choosing a wife, alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, and vice versa. I wasn't the one who would quickly rush into things. You really have to have the right balance when you're choosing a spouse, because, you can rush into the wrong marriage and live a miserable life that ends in divorce, have a miserable marriage that ends in divorce. Or you could just wait too long and overanalyzing, right? That's where I see a lot of people, they get stuck in the two extremes. But one thing I don't see is the one who's balanced in between, someone who's taking their time, with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and others, looking for a suitable partner, a suitable spouse, wife or husband, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, and not waiting too long, right? Not rushing and not waiting too long. and just kind of finding that sweet spot. I'm sharing this with you guys because I know a lot of the people that are struggling with this particular area. But this particular message is for those who are married. Maybe those who want to get married could take some lessons from this. And those who got divorced can take some lessons from this, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So because it's one thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can allow me to say that could benefit you immensely. Maybe you are not you don't have any marriage problem. It is possible that you don't have marriage problems right now. It is possible that you're going through some really bad marriage problems at the moment. It is possible that you don't have a marriage anymore, which is a very, very painful and lonely situation to be in. But even more so, what I've realized is I read this quote on one of the social medias. It said, I guess some bad marriages can make you feel more lonely than when you are single, which is a fact, to be quite honest with you. If you're going through a lonely phase in your marriage where you're feeling even more lonely than when you were single, that's an indication that there's a lot of painful problems and challenges in your marriage that you really have to acknowledge and address and move forward with, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And some of the reasons why it's important, I want to get into some of the reasons why it's important for us to, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, start overcoming our marriage problems, healing and moving forward, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And the number one is strength. And when I say strength, the first question is, what do you mean? It is the strength of the individual, the strength of the marriage, the strength of the family, the strength of the children. The strength of our ummah, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, is based on overcoming these marital problems and challenges. I cannot stress that enough because, every little painful problem and challenge on the individual level, on the marriage level, on the family level, and on the ummah level, the keystone of that is marriage, right? If you're really looking at that, it's going to be very, very important for us to take care of that, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, so we could become strong internally as well as externally, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Having strength is important because the opposite of strength is weakness, right? Who wants to be weak? Who wants to be taken advantage of? Who wants to lay around on a table and just kind of been cherry picked, whichever way you want to be cherry picked, on an individual level, on the ummah level? It's extremely important for us to understand that and pay attention to that, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, so we can continuously work towards progressing. And we can talk a lot about that particular area, but that's a very important reason for us to overcome these painful problems and challenges. And sadly, a lot of us, the problem is, if you see, the foundation and framework of our marriages, if you build it on painful problems and challenges and lies and speculation and suspicion and everything else that you could imagine, that's a marriage that's built on ugly foundation, right? And the reality of that marriage is ugly. If you're lying, if you're cheating, if you're doing all these ugly things in a marriage, obviously the reality of that marriage is ugly. So it's important for us to keep that in mind, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So to build strength within ourselves, within our marriages, and most importantly, our ummah, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, and families, is the reason why it's important for us to overcome our marital problems so we can heal and move forward, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. The second thing is so that you are strong enough to carry your duties and responsibilities as a husband and wife, as a husband or wife. Because the thing is, if you're not carrying your duties and responsibilities as a husband, what is happening? It automatically falls double on your spouse, and it trickles down eventually and unfortunately onto the kids, and they have to struggle and strive to find how to make ends meet. And sadly, a lot of parents, mothers and or fathers, specifically fathers and or mothers, are neglecting their duties and responsibilities. And they're not truly realizing the impact, not only that it has on them, but also on those individuals who they either claim to love or actually love. And it's because we tend to play this victim's mentality where it's all about me, me, me. Why not? Why hasn't this been done for me? Or why hasn't this been done for me? And they're not doing this. It's not really about that, right? It's really about, are you as an individual fulfilling your duties and responsibilities as a husband? Are you as an individual fulfilling your duties and responsibilities as a wife? It's important to actually ask that. Don't ask why someone else is not fulfilling their duties and responsibilities. Like, for example, for me as a husband, I'm not going to ask myself, why isn't my wife fulfilling her duties and responsibilities? The question that I ask myself first and foremost is, why am I not fulfilling my duties and responsibilities as a husband? And a better question to ask is, how can I fulfill my duties and responsibilities as a husband so it does not fall on my wife and, even worse, my children, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. A lot of the individuals, a lot of the fathers I'm going to call out, they have neglected their responsibilities. They have, they're not taking care of their responsibilities. And I understand, everybody's trying their best, but at the same time, trying your best is not an excuse to not do your best. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, not only for myself, but for everyone that is watching, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, and everyone else who's going to watch, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So understanding the concept of duties and responsibilities in a marriage is very, very important, because at the end of the day, it's not really about your spouse and children and everybody else who's associated with that. It's not really even about you. It's way more important than that. It's an obligation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is an obligation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will question you about on the Day of Judgment, and you have to have answers for. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Stop getting in your victim's mentality, because that's not helping you or anybody else. Stop blaming other people, because that's not helping you or anybody else. Stop talking bad about anybody else, because it's not helping you or anybody else. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So taking complete ownership, taking complete responsibility of your duties and obligations to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to yourself, your spouse and children and everybody else, is going to be extremely, extremely important in making sure that we overcome our painful marital problems and challenges, and healing and moving forward, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. The last but not least reason why I feel like, overcoming these marital problems and challenges is very, very important, so we can move on to healing and moving forward, is that so you can have clear conscience, so you don't feel guilty all the time, right? If you're not taking care of the duties and responsibilities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed upon you, and it is a shame if you're not aware of these duties and responsibilities, because you should have known before getting into marriage. You should have studied. You should have asked. You should have talked about this. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And sadly, I honestly believe there should be some level of certification and class that needs to be passed in order for someone to get their marriage certificate. But sadly, that's not the case. But hopefully in the future, that's a system that we can move on to. So if you're someone who's a leader of anything, of a family, or let's start off at a masjid, or at a city, or a state, or a country, or different parts of the world, or different organizations. I think the only country that I could remember off the top of my head is implementing something along those lines is Malaysia, mashallah. Where it actually, I'm not sure that to the extent of this, but I saw that it actually requires individuals to take a marriage course, I believe, together, before they can get some level of marriage certification and have some level of competency. And that's important, because that gives you your peace of mind, right? Where you know your duties and obligations and responsibilities, and You're not feeling guilty and bad all the time for not taking care of your wife, not taking care of your children, not taking care of your husband, not taking care of so forth and so on. Because if you don't overcome these marital problems and challenges, and you don't heal and find some cure, and you don't move forward in a positive way, for better or worse, it's going to be one of those things where you're going to feel conscious about it. You're going to have a level of consciousness where it's not going to serve you at all. You're going to be feeling bad all the time. You're going to feel fear and other different inner conflicts. You're going to feel, like something is missing. You feel like something is not complete. And unfortunately, this is how individuals get married to a second and a third wife and a fourth wife and so forth and so on. And to take a step back, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with getting married to multiple wives, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has permitted that. Granted that maybe you're in a country that's not allowed, so forth and so on. But as a human being from the Creator, you are allowed to have multiple wives. And I would encourage individuals to have multiple wives if they're doing it properly, if they're doing it for the right intentions and sincerity. But if it's to fill a hole that you have within you that is not resolved, no matter how many women you get married to or how many children you have, it's not going to fulfill that void within you unless you fulfill it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within yourself and your current and or previous marriage to whatever capacity there is within that time frame, within that frame. And the reason why I say that is because I see a lot of people, a lot of men having some marriage problems, and the first thing they think about to solve their marriage problems is getting married to another wife. And it just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't really make sense. Because what that does is it's ruining a marriage and a family, and you're leaving them stranded for no reason, right? And you're moving on to another thing to create another marriage, to live an unhappy marriage because you've left sour taste in people's mouths and realities and lives, and you're not taking care of your obligations, so forth and so on in a particular marriage. And you just keep repeating that same cycle, getting married over and over again. And that's how generations upon generations have marital problems. And it's a reality in our ummah that we have to address. Now, if a man is a real man, is taking care of his duties and responsibilities and is taking care of his actual family to the best of his ability, and comes to terms with his wife and family within reason, that he's going to marry another wife, so forth and so on, that's perfectly fine. There's no issue with that. But don't leave your current broken marriage to start another marriage to keep breaking and keep repeating that cycle, and then having generations upon generations of individuals within our ummah see that negative example that individuals are creating. We need to be able to hold the fathers in our families accountable to these types of situations and circumstances. Bi-idhnillah ta'ala, within reasonable account, without any hatred or jealousy or envy or anything else along those lines, bi-idhnillah ta'ala. So by overcoming these marital problems and challenges, and not just abandoning and doing a lot of these crazy stuff that a lot of the other individuals are doing, you're able to live a conscious, free life, right? You're free consciously, you're happy, and you don't feel guilty all the time, and you're not always trying to fill this void inside that you feel by getting married and doing all these other stuff that really doesn't give you any level of fulfillment, let alone success, not only in this life but also in the hereafter. There's a lot more misery to come in the hereafter if you are neglecting your marital duties and responsibilities, whether that's valid to you mentally or not. So it's important for us to overcome our marital problems and challenges and heal and move forward, so we can have a clear conscience, so we can feel fulfilled, so we can move forward bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So those are some of the reasons why that I can think about. Maybe you can ask yourself, what are the personal reasons why you should overcome your marital problems and challenges? Why is it important to heal and move forward? when you overcome your marital problems and challenges, that doesn't mean everything is over. The next step would be to heal, right? Some people are trying to heal without overcoming their marital problems and challenges. So make sure that you take care and find a resolution for the problems, for better or worse, right? The default thing is you should work to stay together. But as a last resort, is that you go your separate ways, right? That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it halal. It is not an issue with that, so long as that is the absolute last resort. Not some men, sadly, I'm going to go in on them, they are all in their emotions. They don't know how to control their emotions. And they don't really understand they only have 3 divorces, right? After the 3rd one, you can't go back and you can't take back, and there's no takebacks unless that individual legitimately gets married to somebody else without the intention of only coming back. And if that marriage doesn't work, then you have a second option, a second go round at it, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. But some men are just so emotional, they can't really control their emotion, and they think divorce is a joke. So they're given the first divorce. Divorce does not fall under any joke, right? If you divorce someone, that's final and firm, right? And you get another chance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you 3 opportunities to make sure that you don't play around with your marriage. And your wife requesting a marriage without valid reason does not necessitate a divorce. So if your wife is pressuring you, that's another, it falls back on you, right? Because your wife cannot divorce you, but you can divorce your wife. And your wife can divorce you through the proper channels, right? So it's important to understand this reality. It's important to understand these dynamics, so you don't fall into these traps. The individuals who are all in their feelings now, they're holding on to their last marriage, right? And the wife is like, pressuring you to please divorce her and just let her go. And that's not a necessary reality that you have to succumb to. But you really have to assess that. What got you to this point? Stop doing those things that got you to this point. That's my point. Understand that reality and don't let it become a situation where you're just continuously working towards that, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And if your divorce is the 3rd time and it's final, figure out what you did wrong. Don't always blame the other person. Understand that reality and see how you could, find cure so you could heal from these marital wounds, and then move forward in a positive way, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, and take step by step to realize the reality that you find yourself in, to realize the type of marriage that you could have that could be blissful, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So those are the main reasons why it's really, really important to make sure that we overcome these marital problems. As painful as they may be, as overwhelming as they may be, as hopeless as they may leave you, it's important to overcome that, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. It's important to realize that that's not, what doesn't break you makes you stronger, right? I'm not even sure if I'm saying that correctly, but you get my point, right? It's going to be important to do that, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Inshallah, give me a moment to get a swig, bi-idhnillah. It's going to be very, very important to realize the reality of your marriage, your potential marriage, and where it could be. And constantly assess your marriage. In the final part of this segment, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, in this show, I really want to talk about just some levels that I've realized in marriage that you could start focusing on and make sure that you continuously get to the highest level of your marriage, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And I'm going to warn you, making sure that you get your marriage to the highest level requires 4 elements. And these are the 4 elements that is required in any situation. All four elements completely might not be required, but one form or the other, one combination of the other, in one way or the other, will be required. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. The first thing that I would like to let you know of is it requires money, right? You really have to have some level of financial stability, financial foundation and framework that you could build off of, and not always worry and stress about the finances. And that's where a lot of the marital problems arise from, is the financial issues. So that's one of the first elements that you would need in order to build your marriage to where it needs to be. And sometimes you might be thinking, man, I'm not having some financial issues with my marriage. But if you really dig a little bit deep and unpack some of these things, it is finances. So stop avoiding and being an ostrich and putting your head in the sand, and take care of your financial obligations and responsibilities, primarily falling on the husband, and then, the wife to whatever capacity there is within natural realities, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. The second thing is you need time. Marriage doesn't happen overnight. You need time, you need patience, in other words. You need to be able to let things develop in a progressive way, proactive way. And the third element that you would need to be able to build your marriage or anything else in your life is you need energy. You need health and fitness. You need to be energized and stop being sluggish and tired and everything else, and the infamous headache for the marriage. People who are married know exactly what I'm talking about, right? So just having energy, you know what I mean? Like most of us lack energy, and that's why a lot of the issues from marriage stems from, and that's where a lot of the solutions from marriage can come from as well. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, or come through. Marital solutions always come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it can go through any of these channels, or needs to go through some of these channels, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And last but not least, marriage needs effort. You need to be able to put your effort, give it your best, do the best that you can. And within those four elements, one thing I've realized is you can't expect your bills to be paid, right? You have to work for it. You have to put money, time, energy, and effort into it. Similarly, you can't expect to have a good marriage. You can't expect to have the best marriage, let alone. Because why? It needs money, it needs time, it needs energy, it needs effort. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And those are the four key ingredients that I can think about, not only for marriage, but anything else in your life that you want to accomplish, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And some people, I know their red flags are going everywhere. Money? Money? It requires money? Baby, yes, it requires money, man. I'm telling you. The sooner you can accept that reality, and the sooner you can step up to that reality, the better your marriage will become, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, as well as the different elements. Obviously, the foundation and framework of everything else within that capacity is iman and taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You really have to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not have any shubha, which is doubts and confusions about that reality or any other reality. And not having that conviction and that certainty and that belief that is required, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And just having taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is extremely, extremely important, and in anything that you do with your life. And just having that hukum, that hikmah, and that sakina, and that tatma'inna, that contentment and satisfaction within yourself is really, really important. I've dealt with marital problems on a personal level. I've dealt with marital problems on a professional level. And I've seen individuals that are going through marriages and they don't ask for help. I'm not saying ask for help from me, but ask for help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Make sure you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one who controls the hearts is the one who can control the hearts of your spouse and you, to gain those hearts close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and gain those hearts closer together so you could have an amazing marriage, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And one thing that I just realized right now is that to have the best quality and quantity of marriage, it needs to be a marriage that is close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not far from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what do I mean by that? A lot of the individuals who know about marital problems, a lot of the individuals who know how to properly assess and pinpoint and diagnose the problems and prescribe some sort of solution, they know that the first thing that they always should check and must check in any level of marital solutions or counseling or coaching or training or anything of those nature is that you check the person's iman and taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the best indicative way of that is you check their salah, right? Is the husband praying his salah at the masjid on time? Is the wife praying her salah at home, preferably on time? And it's important for us to check that, because if the answer is no to that, then what do you expect of that marriage? What do you expect of that home? Wallahi, I remember, some acquaintances, I should say. They told me, I've never prayed, and it's always gotten to me. It's always bugged me. We've never been praying, right? What was that quote? A family that prays together stays together, right? So true. Now, I'm not talking about just the general prayer. I'm talking about salah, right? The obligation and duties and responsibilities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has upon you. Isn't it weird? Isn't it awkward? Isn't it crazy that a husband or wife is expecting their spouse to take care of their duties and responsibilities when they themselves are not taking care of their duties and responsibilities to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? They're not taking care of their duties and responsibilities to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're not taking care of their duties and responsibilities to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And secondly, they're not taking care of their duties and responsibilities to themselves, right? Transgressing against their own souls, committing sins and transgressions in multiple folds. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Subhanallah. But yet, you expect to have the best husband. You expect to have the best wife. You expect to have the best family, children. You expect to have the best marriage. You expect to have the best life in this dunya and in the akhirah. Come on, bruh. Get your life together. I'm talking to myself, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And I hope that you can take some level of message from that, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. I hope that something I'm saying is making sense. I hope that something that I'm giving you is beneficial, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Because it's a reality that we all have to face. One of the most painful problems and challenges that I've ever faced in my life is seeing loved ones within my family going through marital problems and challenges, right? And I remember one of my friends telling me to cover a special segment in Ridwanullah University about marriage and intimacy and everything else that you can imagine about that, because on a personal level, not detailed, but on a general level, we talk about that. It's time to understand that reality. It's time to understand that world and see how not only it truly affects us personally, but also professionally, because you're at home worrying about your work, because when you are at work, you're worrying about home. So it's like a lose-lose situation. So it's important to realize that. There's a lot of things that I want to say about marriage. Obviously, as we're wrapping up, there's not enough time to dive deeper into this. And what I wanted to know is if there's any particular topic that you would like me to address within life. Please let me know on the comments below, or send me an email at ridwanullahorganization@gmail.com. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, myself and or the Ridwanullah team that we're in the process of building will be able to get back to you within reasonable time, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. The email is the main source of communication for the Ridwanullah TV show and organization, bi-idhnillah. So feel free to connect with us in that capacity, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. I would love to hear from you. Maybe I'll dive deeper into this. I'm really enjoying talking about the marriage topic. Maybe, like I said, the individuals who are looking to get married could take some lessons from this. Individuals who are married could definitely take some lessons from this, because this is directly for them. Individuals who are divorced and looking to get married could take some lessons from this as well. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And the other thing that is in the back of my mind that I keep thinking about is two quotes that I've read about marriage that really touched me and impacted me. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And shout out to my boy Umar Al-Ani for giving me a really amazing marriage advice when I was in the research phase of my marriage. And my boy Nadim for giving me a marriage. Two very powerful marriage tips that I'm going to tell you actually right now. Really helped me out a lot. And I'm going to tell you the other two things that I came across that helped me in my marriage. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Umar Al-Ani, mashallah, was telling me, I was asking him, what's the best marriage advice that you could give me? And he had a serious face, but also a smiling one. And he told me, tell your wife everything before she even thinks about asking you. Oh boy, I went to work on that one. I really went to work on that one. So I was like, before my wife even has the space or the time to ask me about anything, I'll tell her. And it's not about not being a man, right? A lot of the men are stuck in, I'm not trying to tell my wife anything. I'm a man. Yeah, a man doesn't tell his wife anything. Go figure. That's why your marriage is so manlyly wrong. So keep that in mind. I'm not a feminist, but some people just a little bit of airheaded. You know what I mean? Like some of the guys, they really can't express, they're soft outside the house and they're tough inside the house. You need to be tough outside the house and soft inside the house. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. That's a real man. So that's one of the things that I picked up from Umar. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. If you ever watch it, Jazakallah khair, bro. Really appreciate you, man. Much love. The other one was from my friend Nadim. He told me in a marriage, there's always three people at play. There's you, your spouse, and shaitan. And he said, don't side with shaitan to go against your spouse, whether that's your husband or wife. Don't side with shaitan to go against your spouse. Always side with your spouse to go against shaitan. What does that mean, stepping out of your ego? What does that mean, stepping out of your hatred? What does that mean, trying to understand before you're understood? What does that mean, listening? And that's what I took, right? And don't jump to conclusions. Don't rush into anything. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So that's amazing things that I learned from that. I really, I think it was like maybe 6 months to a year prior to getting married, I really went on to this real deep dive study of the Quran and the Sunnah, of the secular knowledge, of personal experience, looking at observing individuals, asking married people, the individuals that had horrible marriage problems to know what not to, let me take a step back. Individuals that had really great marriages to know what to do, and individuals that had horrible marriages to know what not to do. I really took complete lessons from everybody. And those are the most important lessons that I can think about. The one that I've learned in my marriage is you have to build your marriage on the foundation of truth, for better or worse, right? A marriage that is not built on the foundation of truth, and you're not living a truthful marriage and a truthful life, that's a horrible life, right? Some people are so afraid to speak the truth in their marriages, and that's what's killing them. And before I even got married to my wife, I told her, one way or the other, we're going to build the foundation and framework of our marriage on the truth, not assumptions, not lies. And she was a different level of that as well. So that's why how we're able to kind of connect on a deeper level. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I want to shout out my wife. Amazing individual. Wallahi, I'm not the type of person that says something just to say it, but I honestly believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gifted me with my better half. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to gift you with your better half, one way or the other as well. I was a little bit hesitant, and then I thought about how the Prophet ﷺ publicly said the person he loves the most is Aisha radiallahu anha, and then the second person that he loves the most is her father, Abu Bakr alayhi salam. So that's why I'm publicly showing my love and affection for my wife. If I'm still alive, I hope that I show that to you every single day. And if I'm gone, I hope that you feel it, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. That I hope that you can forgive me for all the crazy stuff and all the mistakes that I've done. And I hope that you guys could forgive your spouses as well, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. I just want to wrap up real quick. I wish I had more time, but inshallah, we'll try to make more time for this. But I've noticed, actually before that, I'll just go a little bit above the hour just for today, inshallah. There's two things that I've realized about marriage and that I came across that was very, very powerful. The first thing is the best thing that you could do for your children is to take care of their mother or father. The absolute best thing that you could do for your children is to take care of their mother and father. Because why? They love their mother and father. So if their mother and father is happy, they're happy. If their mother and father is not happy, then they're not happy. So in other words, the worst thing to do to a child is to make their mother and father unhappy. So work on that, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, as a gift, not only to your spouse, but most importantly, your children. And the other thing that I've read about children, about marriage that relates to children is that you should treat your wife like you want your daughter to be treated. How do you expect your daughter to be treated by her husband? Treat her like that. Subhanallah. And that was very, very powerful. Because now you're not only going from empathy, not only going from sympathy, you're going to empathy. Sympathy is feeling what kind of knowing what somebody's feeling. And empathy is actually feeling what that person is feeling and seeing it from their actual reality. So you have to really put yourself in that shoes. And how would you like your daughter to be treated? Treat your wife in such manner and better, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So that's a very, very powerful thing that I've learned about marriage, and that we should all take into consideration, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, because I'm certainly trying my best to, bi-idhnillah. I've realized, just to touch on it right now, there's three main levels of marriage. The first one is the basic level. That is your duties and responsibilities on a basic level, meaning the husband is taking care of primarily for the most part in terms of obligations. The husband is taking care of the finances. The husband is taking care of the work, the heavy lifting and all the other stuff, as well as, supporting his wife with the other things that needs to be taken care of. And there are exceptions to the rule, but this is the rule for the most part. And then the wife is taking care of the house, for the most part, cooking and cleaning, watching after the kids, and everything else that you can imagine, and then working, whatever else if necessary. And those are the primary roles and responsibilities of a marriage and a family. Just like I know some of the feminists and all the meninists or whatever other ist there is out there, their antennas are going crazy and they're like, women, they're only supposed to... Come on, right? There's certain roles and responsibilities, and most people are afraid to talk about that. Most people are afraid to come to terms with that. And living in a Western society, your values your values and identity and everything else that goes along with that, it gets jumbled for the most part. And it's important for us to realize this. It's important for us to accept this reality, because it is not what I would like it to be. It's not what I would say it is. It is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is destined and designed this, right? This reality, right? He didn't make the women make the men give birth to the children. and breastfeed the children. He made the women give birth to the children and breastfeed the children because they're more affectionate and they're more loving than what a man is, right? And made the men the protector and the guardian of the family and the house because, you know, a woman is not built like that. And not to say they can't take these roles and responsibilities at different times, and sometimes both roles and responsibilities falls on their shoulder, and sometimes so forth and so on, right? So there are always exceptions to the rule. I'm not saying that this is exactly how it has to be, but generally this is what it should be, and you work with whatever capacity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in reality, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put you in. So taking care of those basic responsibilities, you know, the husband being the provider, the wife being the caretaker for the most part. Those are the main duties and responsibilities, and that's the first level. The second level is taking care of each other's needs and wants on the spiritual level, on the psychological level, on the physical level. And it's important to make sure that your partner, your spouse, is fulfilled on all those levels by just asking them, are you fulfilled? You know, if you guys have a healthy communication, you're not always arguing and yelling at each other, and you have a reasonably grown conversation, you'll tell each other, you know, you're meeting my needs and wants here and there, you're not meeting my needs and wants here and there, or you're completely meeting my needs and wants, you're not meeting my needs and wants at all. And understand that's the next level that you can get to, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And then the third and last level is the clothing, the shelter, and the protection level. Meaning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that we should be clothes for each other. And we should always take lessons from that and, you know, become houses for each other as well. And a country for each other, with an army that is out there to not hurt this individual, is out there to protect this individual, is out there to communicate with this individual and show love and affection with this individual. Beyond just the first two levels, right? Because, you know, obviously, sadly, some men are trying to get some, not even taking care of their basic responsibilities, and that's the reason why you're not getting any. The marriage individuals know exactly what I'm talking about, and a little bit of the wise individuals know exactly what I'm talking about. So if you're trying to get some, put in some work and make sure that you're meeting the basic necessities, and then you can start meeting the spiritual, psychological, and physical needs and wants, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And then you could work on, you know, taking care of the mercy part of it and the protection part of it as well, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Those are the three levels that I wanted to just touch on, bi-idhnillah. That was very, very important, that I've learned recently. That it's important not only just to meet each other on the basic level, right? You know, making sure the bills are paid, the house is clean, there's food in the house. That's the basic stuff that you should be taking care of. And if you're not taking care of that basic level for your wife or wives or husband and whatever, then you should take that into consideration. If you're not meeting your husband or wife's needs and wants, you should take that into consideration. And if you're not showing mercy and protection, you should reconsider your marriage. And those are the three areas that we really have to take into consideration, because a lot of the individuals are trying to get their spiritual and psychological and physiological needs and wants met without even taking care of the basics, right? The bills are not paid. There's so much stress. You're not even getting groceries. And you want to lay down and cuddle up? Nah, don't work like that, bro. Life don't work like that. I'm telling you, man. Life don't work like that. You got to be able to take care of the basic necessities to have a peace of mind, so you can get a peace of mind, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So that's pretty much it. That's what I will, you know, conclude on this particular episode about overcoming marriage problems, healing, and moving forward. You know, if you don't overcome these marital problems, you know, a lot of these marital problems are ongoing for a long time. It is up to you to focus on these problems so you can resolve it and heal from it and move forward, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Moving forward is so important for your health and everything else that you can imagine. Just to kind of summarize and conclude, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, you know, work to build your marriage, right? Work to build your marriage. overcome these painful problems and challenges. And make sure that you're taking your marriage seriously, and you have iman and taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're praying your salah, most importantly, making sure that you're fulfilling your duties and responsibilities to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yourself, and then others like your spouse and so forth and so on, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And make sure that you're putting in the money, the time, the energy, and the effort to build your marriage, right? You don't expect things to just be. You have to put in the necessary work, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Understand there's different insights and breakthroughs that you have to accumulate for your marriage to be at the best level that you could possibly have it. Make sure that you're taking care of the basics within basic duties and responsibilities of your marriage. Make sure that you guys are meeting each other's needs on a spiritual level, psychological level, spiritual level, a physical level, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And make sure that you're showing each other mercy and protection, whether that's knowingly or unknowingly, and you're communicating at a deeper and general level, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, so you can work towards that. So if you're having a good marriage, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase that for you. If you're having a horrible marriage, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turn that around for you. If you are divorced, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow you to reconcile. If you can't get married, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala find you a beautiful spouse in this dunya. And if not in this dunya, definitely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless you with an amazing spouse in the akhirah, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Never ever give up hope. Jazakumullahu khair. Just to talk about the sponsor, to thank the sponsor, and just kind of remind you guys of the announcements and updates. Jazakumullahu khair to the Ridwanullah organization for being the default sponsor of this channel. Really appreciate your love and support. And if you would like to sponsor this channel, please send your budget and details to Ridwanullah organization at gmail.com, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. As I've said before, we have the Ridwanullah University, which is a Islamic personal and professional development program that we've been working on. We're putting that on the shelf for right now. We're going to start off with a free and paid seminar in person, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, and then we're going to slowly but surely start shifting to the online realm within a couple of months or years, or however long it takes to properly do that, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So I would love your love and support. So whenever I'm doing any seminars for free or for paid, I would love your love and support to help me grow this Ridwanullah TV show and work and organization, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So I would love your love and support with that. And that's what I will say. If you've liked this video, please make sure that you subscribe to the Ridwanullah TV show, as well as my personal channel, Hussein Mohamud. And don't forget to press the notification bells to join the Ridwanullah family, as well as the Hussein Mohamud squad, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And if you've liked this video, please press the like button. And don't forget to share it with your family and friends. I forgot to leave you guys with this challenge, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So I'm going to leave you with this challenge and leave it on the comment below. Say, I'm in, if you are into this challenge. And the challenge is for you to just at the very least assess your marriage. Is it, or marriages, if you have multiple partners, within the halal context. I'm not talking about anything haram, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Is just to assess your marriage. Is it out of 100%? Is it 0? Is it 100%? And look at the ways that you can improve it. Look at the ways how you could build on what's going on that's good, and look at the ways that you could improve what's not working, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And that's my challenge to you. If you're into that challenge, please type in the comments below, I'm in. If you are married, even if you're not married, you can still do the assessment. Even if you are divorced, you can still do the assessment for that, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So that's a challenge that I would like to leave with you, because I constantly look at the quality and quantity of my marriage, and being appreciative and grateful for what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed me with. And working towards what I could have with humility and hunger and drive, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Jazakumullahu khair, Ridwanullah family. for tuning in to another episode of Ridwanullah TV. I'm your host and maximizer, Hussein Mohamud, checking out by saying never ever give up on completely mastering and maximizing your dream life in this dunya and in the akhirah by the grace, will, and for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.